Hey there, welcome to Coffee Break Plans. Today I'm going to talk about some common planning pitfalls. First, I'm going to talk about these pitfalls at the task level, then at the system-wide level. There's only 6 in total, 3 of each. So starting with the tasks, one of those big pitfalls is to have one big long task list. Yes, it's good to have a brain dump and write down every single thing you need to do in one big list. Getting it out of your head helps free up space in your brain to worry about something else rather than what it is you have to do. But leaving it as just a list is overwhelming. So here is a task list I did a couple of years ago when I was directing a show, and I did a big brain dump, but you can see I've gone in later and color coded them all into particular task lists. So the pink ones is everything I need to do before auditions. The yellow ones is everything I needed to get done before Christmas, and so on. So I took this list, I color coded everything, and then I wrote them all out in separate lists according to when they were due and needed to get done. So that helped to break down that task list. Also, every item on a list is different. You might have some reoccurring ones: buy milk, bring bins in, vacuum. And by the time you do them, then they're ready to go back on the list again. Then there are those that are more urgent and that are time-based. For example, doctor at 11 a.m. tomorrow. And some may sit on a list for a long time without any pressing need to get it done at all. Declutter, spare room, replace the light bulb in the garage. So you need to have different systems for each of those. So I have, in any planner that I use, have run task lists that are divided into 3 separate stages. I have my every week lists, I have my rolling task list. Those are the ones that just sit there for a while and I might not do them straight away. And then I have the ones that are due this week. If I have anything that is time bound, it goes directly into the day itself with all its details. I also, as you may know if you have been watching my channel for a while, I keep a bunch of lists at the front of my planner that are all things that I need to get done eventually, but I know that it's probably not going to be done anytime quickly. So I need to replace all the bulbs in my ceiling, and then I need to replace bulbs everywhere else. Some lamps, all the bulbs have gone out. I need to sand and paint the windowsill in my bedroom. None of these things are urgent. They don't need to be done at any particular time or date. So they go into these long-term task lists. So brain dump your task lists, great. But after that, do something with them. The second pitfall is not closing the loop. Closing the loop means coming back to check that you've completed everything. So now I actually know all these tasks were done because the show was put on in 2025 quite successfully. But if I was still in the middle of it and I came back to this task list, I would see that after Christmas I was supposed to do all of these things and I haven't done them yet. So I need to still complete those. They need to migrate to some other place where I will pick them up and get them done. It also helps to go back over your old task list here because I don't have a lot going on at the moment. I've smushed my this week, next week rolling task list all into one. And if I take a look at this list, there are some things in here that I have had on this list for a long time. My car service, for example, I have been carrying that over for the last 6 or so months because I keep meaning to get my car serviced. Now, we're coming up to a time of year where my car is actually due for its warrant. So I can either book my car in for a service before that, or I can just wait and get it done at the same time as my warrant. So coming back and closing your loop means going, do I really need to keep that item on my task list for any longer? And I can probably decide that I don't. So I'm just going to cross that out. And I'm not going to carry that over to the next week because there's no point. The next common pitfall is planner's fallacy, and this is when you underestimate the time it takes to do a task. I don't really have a visual for this, so I'm just going to sit it here. That's where you decide that something will take an hour, but actually, realistically, it's probably going to take 4. Now, if it's something that's due on a particular day, so, well, let's just take, it's my filming day today. So I'm going to film my reading journal review and my common pitfalls, and I'm going to do that today. Now, my reading journal review is not due until next Saturday. Now, if I left it until here, the day that that video is actually due, and it ends up taking much longer than I expected, then I've missed that deadline. Even if it's a project that's not on a deadline, it leads to slippage in your project. It starts to take longer. I'm talking about my personal projects here, not my work projects. My personal projects are things that I do for fun, but the longer they drag out and the longer I procrastinate, the more they lose their fun and it starts to become a bit of a chore. So if you know that you need a certain amount of time to do something, book it in. And then I'm going to say, book in an extra couple of hours or an extra couple of days, depending on what it is, so that you know you are going to meet that deadline. Another way this plays out is if you bundle too many things to do in too small set of time. So for example, and it's funny that I have this open here, is I plan my after work activities in this line here. And if I plan too many things, at one stage I decided I could probably get home from work, I could do a little bit of exercise, I could cook tea and then clean up, I could have a shower, and then I was going to be able to settle in to do a few hours of writing. And I would honestly write that down in this little box here to say that's what I was going to do after work on, say, Tuesday. Now, let's get real, people, that is never happening, not without rushing from task to task to task. And by the time I get to the end of all of those tasks and I'm showered and ready, I just want to go to bed. I'm too exhausted to even think about writing. And rushing from task to task is not how I want to spend my spare time. Now I'm going to shift into the system-wide planning fallacies. And the first one of that would be having no structure. So everything in your planner is bashed in wherever it fits and there's no rhyme or reason for where it is. Now I just happen to have one of my bullet journals with me, and this is where I struggled with bullet journaling. I'm not going to open it, unfortunately, because there is just stuff in there that's personal. But one page you get a monthly spread, then you would get a memory keeping page about a tramp that I did, and then I would have maybe some weekly goals on there, and then maybe there'd be a personal journal entry. Now I know you can use an index to keep all that in order, but for me that never worked that well, and I spent years of bullet journaling trying to overcome this issue. I would assign the first half of the book to my time and task management. Then halfway through the book, I would have my collection, so all the books that I've read, all my personal journey entries. Right at the back, I would have my annual spreads, so all the TV programs I was tracking, etc. That didn't work either. Now I have a planner with structure. It's instantly visible. You can see it from the top and from the side. If I want to see what my goals are, I can turn straight away, goals section, and there are my goals, and they're ready to go. If I need to know what's happening in September, I can turn to my September section and it's ready to go. If I want to know what I'm doing today, I turn to this week, Saturday the 4th of July, filming day. Simple. The next system-wide pitfall is having more of a focus on planning and tracking than actually doing. Yes, we love planning. Yes, we enjoy the journey, and some of planning is about the planning. But a lot of planning is planning to do something, and if it never gets done, then we're missing the point. If you've ever watched Red Dwarf, which was a very well-known British comedy, there's a character called Arnold Rimmer, and he spends weeks studying for his exam by preparing a color-coded timetable, which says everything that he has to study for, how many hours, all colored in. But of course, it's taken 6 weeks to put that timetable together, and now he only has a few hours to do the actual study before his exam in the morning. So keep that in mind. Enjoying planning is one thing, and that's fine. But if you're doing all planning and no doing, you need to reevaluate. And the third issue, and this is the one that I suffer from the most, is where there's no single source of the truth. So, for example, you may have too many calendars. You may have a paper one that sits on your desk at work. You may have the online one that's on your computer at work. You may have a pocket one that fits in your handbag or your pocket. Now, if you are the kind of person who will go through regularly and sync them all up, that's fine. But if you don't, then they are all going to fall out of sync. And then if someone says, hey, what are you doing on Saturday? And you can't tell because you don't know which calendar is the most up to date, then that system has failed. My issue is notebooks and taking notes. So this is my everyday carry. I have a notes section in here where I have a whole bunch of blank paper where I can write notes. So if I happen to be somewhere and I have this on me, I will scribble those notes down. I also have a capture notebook which I carry in my handbag. This one is actually outside my handbag. I have yet another one in my handbag at the moment, in a different handbag. So I will sometimes scribble notes down into this notebook or the one that's in my other handbag. And then when I go to find the notes again, I think, where the heck are those notes? I have 3 notebooks that I use to write my notes and my scripts for coffee break plans. And I have another one that's propped up on my desk that I'm looking at the moment with all my notes for this script. That's 4 notebooks. So it's no wonder that every time I get to the end of the week and I think, oh, I'm going to do some filming, where's my script for this week? I have to ruffle through all the pages of all these 4 separate notebooks to find the right one. So I struggle with this myself. And the solution, of course, is to pick your calendar or to pick your notebook and you allocate a purpose and then you use it for that labeled purpose. Likewise with your calendar, if you know you are somebody who is going to be on the go and you're going to have your phone on you all the time, then an electronic calendar is the one to use. If you're somebody who doesn't like to use it and you don't use it, then a paper one is needed. And you need probably just one of those, maybe 2 at most. When it comes to your capture system, it's okay to have several. So, what I do is okay, provided I book in a time each week to go through all those notebooks and pull out all the notes that I need and put them in their rightful place, which I don't do, which is why I run into problems. But here you go. Here's a lesson I'm going to take from this video. I'm going to go and book myself in a weekly appointment for when I go through all my capture notebooks and compile all my notes. And I'm going to do that right now. There you go. Clear up my capture notebooks. That's done. And I need to do that every single week. Done. That's all I have today. I hope some of those hints help and have a fantastic week, and I will see you next time.